plus, I'll say this: he has the crappiest costume. I think even Panda has a reasonable.
Reasonable?
It's not reasonable.
It seems to fit him better.
Red Scare's like, I will go to local Adidas, pick up tracksuit, ski mask on sale. Yeah. That's fine. Hey, hello, Internet. It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We're here talking about Watchmen, Season 1, Episode 2, Martial Feats of Comanche Horsemanship. Ooh. All right. Not a tongue twister at all. Ooh. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather. Okay.
Yeah, really. Now, don't mess up.
I know. Oh, God. So, yeah, Episode 2, we get another flashback to what is an actual historical event. I mean,
yes.
their version of it, but still a historical event.
Yes.
Which was World War I. Germany dropped leaflets on the army, kind of directed toward the non-white soldiers, saying, hey, how convinced are you that you're on the right side, basically?
Now, it's funny, from my perspective, living in 2019, knowing what's to come, right? Because in the First World War, you didn't know. That was the Great War.
It was a great war.
So you didn't
know.
To
end all wars.
Right, exactly. So you did not know that World War II was coming. You didn't know that Hitler was coming.
Correct.
Who was, clearly someone who...
Yeah. Hey, after this, everything will be clear sailing for Germany. Yeah.
Right.
No, right.
Well, it's like, hey, obviously a black person would be more than welcome in Germany. Right?
Surely, they seem so accepting.
Yeah.
And no. 30 years later.
No. So it's a good thing that Will's father was not fooled.
Right.
Was not fooled, although it was tempting.
Right. It was not fooled, but he did.
Or at least
that sheet.
It was. Yeah. It's like it was probably the spit that did it. It's like it's not a bad point.
Because he does hold on to that. So he was probably, we don't know the exact date that he's there, but 1917-ish. And then it's 1921 is this Tulsa race riot. Yeah. And that's where he writes, watch over this boy on the back of that leaflet. So he's been holding on to it.
And they established, too, actually, the reason why it was there was because his son was going through the stuff and found... He's like, oh, wear your uniform. So he found it. So it was already around.
Yeah, good
so that
call.
he could.
Good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that also then bookends the end of this episode when, as he's being taken away by the mysterious ship, he drops the leaflet. I think intentionally, but it accidentally falls and she grabs it.
I mean, maybe he did deliberately, but I don't know what information that provides for her.
Yeah, I mean, she knows now that. Will is his name. Will is her grandfather.
Right.
So maybe it's giving a little like, this is my origin. I don't know. No?
But it doesn't tell her anything. It just says, watch over this boy, and here's our racial history. Okay. It's possible that I wonder.
So it's just an artistic thing. You're saying? It's just
I
like
think
it fell and she grabbed it and then.
I think so. I mean, maybe there's another message there.
Yeah. Well, if you use the special glasses,
you
can see the message written. Okay, so we're back to right before Sister Night shows up. Will has called her to say, "Hey, come out to this field. I have something to show you."
Right.
That's what happened.
Don't bring your mask.
Don't bring your mask. You don't need it. I know who you are. She meets up with Will and she arrests him. Or takes him in.
Yes.
Doesn't arrest.
No.
Holds him hostage.
Right. But I think that a reason why she didn't actually arrest him is because she thought that it would get away from her in terms of like, oh, he says he did it, so that's good enough. And so perhaps because she was thinking that it's not plausible, at least at that time anyway, that it's not plausible that he did it.
Right, because he's like 105. She's like, this guy obviously didn't do this crime. Whether he did or not, I think it's still actually a little up for debate. But in her mind, you would think she's probably like, he didn't do it, so I'm not going to just throw him to the wolves.
Right.
But she's not convinced he didn't do it.
Yeah, no. Or at least that he's not involved anyway.
Yeah. Well, because she's sitting there waiting for it.
Exactly. Yes,
he knew something.
Yes, he did know something.
So she takes him to the bakery, thinks she's holding him, although we find out later. And
Yes.
She's like, I went out for a snack,
Yeah.
across the groceries, came back, whatever,
Yeah.
hanging out.
Yeah.
She has this moment where she has to freak out because of the loss of her dear friend Don Johnson, Judd.
Yes.
So she kind of goes back into the back and kind of freaks out for a moment. And
Yep.
puts on her costume,
Yes.
like her mask, to help her. And, you know, because she doesn't need the mask. Right?
No.
In this moment,
She really
he
doesn't.
knows who she is.
Yes.
She's already talked to him.
And what does he say? You've changed.
Yeah. So it's for her as opposed to it's. I think it's to her to be like, all right, now I'm in my interrogation persona.
Right, but in part too to have an effect on him as well.
Yeah.
You know, but everything she does after that, she needs to be like that anyway. So,
Right.
you know, when she goes to, yeah. So
Well, it's a funny point actually. This is later, but it harkens onto the same point. Looking Glass with the mask.
yes,
I love the scene. So they're showing
in the car.
No, well,
guess-
that's a good scene. But the American Hero Story.
Oh,
The show is playing, right?
Yes.
And so everybody's like, "Oh, it's time to watch the show," and we're seeing a montage of like, it's even playing over where the 7th Cavalry is,
Right.
And there's a shot of Looking Glass at home,
yes,
pulling up the mask to eat a sandwich.
Yeah,
Like, what are you? He's sitting in his own living room wearing the mask. It reminded me of Galaxy Quest.
Oh.
Alan Rickman. Because he plays the character with
Yes.
the big head,
Yes.
and like we see a shot of him at home, and he's still wearing the head thing. Like, so you know he hates it, but so just this is funny that Looking Glass is like we never see his eyes,
Yeah.
we never see his face
well, in this episode,
in this episode. Yeah, I mean it's just like anyway, it's just funny. Even at home, he keeps the Looking Glass thing on. All right,
because,
so
yeah, you know, when we first saw him, he wasn't in.
right.
He's like, put it on so that I can see how I look.
Yeah. Don Johnson did the hey, put your mask on. Oh.
Yeah.
So they're playing it for laughs. Sister Knight has to act surprised when she gets the call, like, "Oh, we found Judd Crawford's body."
Yes.
So, oh, really? Wow! Oh my God! And so she shows up at the scene. One thing that occurred to me is, I mean, she drives back up. I'm like, didn't she drive up the first time? Wouldn't there be like tire tracks in this field? I don't know. Nobody's like, you were here before. So
No,
I think that's
definitely
just
not.
gone. But it seemed like she would have driven up there, not realizing I need to not leave clues. You know,
Right.
And she might have actually
Right.
but whatever. That's not a plot point as
Nope.
far as we know.
Not
Yet. I guess Silk Spectre showing up next episode. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe she'll.
Like, hey, we found some clues.
Yeah.
And this is where she has this moment where they're taking the body down, and she holds the body of Judd, and she has this flashback to the White Knight.
Yes.
So this is that moment, very critical backstory to this show, which is on stroke of midnight. Again, the clock theme.
Yeah.
You know, she and her husband are waiting to midnight. He wants to open a gift.
Yes. Yeah, a Christmas gift.
And they're waiting, and the clock's ticking up, clicking up. Hits midnight. She's like, "There's somebody in the house."
Yeah, and initially he thinks, "Oh, is that Santa?"
Yeah.
She's like, "No, wait, there's somebody in the house."
Yeah.
You know,
Somebody
she's the
who's
cop.
Not Santa.
So yeah, I didn't arrange for some Santa guy to come. No.
I mean, she shoots Santa. You're like, oh man. So she pushes her husband to
Out of
safety.
the way. Yes.
She stabs a 7th Cavalry person to death.
Another really good though. I like a lot of her fight scenes. So a number of good. Her having to think on her feet about how she's gonna.
Yeah, turn the lights off. She's
Yeah.
hiding behind the counter.
Yeah, she's throwing things and.
Yeah, I agree. There's something very dynamic about it, or like in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like definitely establishing there's a reason why she's formidable, so she's able to really handle herself.
Right. So she kills one, but a second one comes in, shoots her with a shotgun. She falls to the floor, not dead, obviously. She died, didn't I? No. And so one of the more mysterious things we're going to certainly find out more about later. This 7th Cavalry person comes and puts the gun basically right up to her face. And he's just standing there with a shotgun. She closes her eyes, When she opens them, it's 3 days later, and Don Johnson is sitting there watching her. She's in a hospital room. He claims, oh yeah, your husband was here the whole time. I just told him to go home for a little while. Anyway, you're alive.
But your partner's dead.
Right. So Judd has a wound on his shoulder. And I think we do see scars.
Yeah, later on, yeah,
so
we do.
It's just a confirmation that he did actually sustain some kind of shot.
Yeah.
And he informs her that her partner is dead. The kids hid in a closet. The partner and his wife are dead, but the kids hid in a closet. Those are the kids that she now, years later,
is raising.
Post-flashback, is raising. So it's the kids from her partner, Doyle, who died on this white night. Apparently 40 cops were attacked in their houses on Christmas. Man. Oof.
Yeah.
And so everybody who didn't die is apparently retiring. They're just like resigning.
Yeah.
And Sister Night refuses to resign, and so I don't know if it's as a result of that, but Don Johnson kind of says in the same moment, like, okay, I'm not going to resign either.
Well, she says she's not going to resign. However, she does resign.
Yeah, good. Okay, good point. She works for them, but she's not actually a cop. I mean, maybe that's their version of like, you can fake resign and then you're still a cop, basically.
Right.
To save your skin. Although Don Johnson does not do that.
No.
And he gets lynched.
Yes.
So one question I had was, this seems to put like the size of this attack into focus, which is there were 40 cops attacked, which makes it seem like it's pretty local to Tulsa. And so my thought is like, does that mean that this mask thing, like cops wearing masks, is only in Tulsa?
Right.
Like in like a nearby town in Oklahoma, Enid, Oklahoma. Does Enid have masked cops? Or
now,
like, no, it's only in Tulsa.
Right, and one thing that would then, if that were true, suggest is that this 7th Cavalry is merely to that area.
Right.
I mean, I would be surprised.
Small?
I agree. And also, one of the things that occurred to me is that when Sister Night gets the genetic material of Will and then goes to the...
Oh, yeah.
William Gates is there to say, you know, we'll see if you are related to people who have been affected by this Tulsa thing, right? But I would think that that could be a reason why reparations were given, but that would limit the scope of reparations. It makes me wonder if there are a number of events, and that's just merely one, that would cause somebody to be eligible for
the reparations.
Right, reparations, right.
Right.
So
because at the moment, I think we only have proof that it was people affected by the Tulsa riot of 1921 that get the reparations, and that seems a little small.
Yes. Yes. So I would think that it would actually be a number of events, and maybe that's just one. Not so coincidental since they're around
it
that particular area.
It's a
right, exactly.
Event.
Right. And I feel like what the Rorschach 7th Cavalry motion or movement should be larger than just that city. It should really be nationwide. At least I would expect it to be. Maybe they come by different names in different areas, but and it makes it wonder whether or not, because it just haven't been established, I don't think, unless someone let us know. It certainly has been interesting to look at other people's, appraisals about Easter eggs and things like that. Like, for instance, the news stand that we see has two different kinds of publications or periodicals that are there. One's that is sort of pro the changes that have occurred, and one that's anti. And we even have that one.
I think the newspaper is the one that the New Frontiersman or whatever is the one that Rorschach sent his journal to.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. And so the what is it, the news salesman guy there is like, oh yeah, I read everything, but I don't believe it. Any of the things, and he seems to be spotting. Well, he's the one spotting the government's behind the squids thing.
I think that's Bunny from The Wire.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything from The Wire is probably going to be good. There you go. So
yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was the the chief that was came up with.
New Amsterdam.
Yes, New Amsterdam. Yeah. I'm all about New Amsterdam.
Okay, well,
Yeah, we need it. We need it.
So right there, we do see in that news story that squids are falling in various locations.
Right.
That's not just a Tulsa thing for sure. That's a maybe worldwide thing. I think there was even a couple of non-U.S. cities.
Well, the whole point of it, right, was to make the world come together. Right. So, and presumably that's all part of the how many states it is now.
Yeah, 51 states. We saw the flag. I don't know if it's 51, but it's got theoretically the 51st state would be Vietnam in this world because Vietnam was made a state. But there's a flag, and it's a different type of flag.
Yeah, well, it seems.
So
yeah,
I assume they because they added Vietnam as with a star or something. But I did not go. Oh, look, there's 53. Will, is captured by Sister Night and basically keeps insisting that he's the one that strung up Don Johnson. And he says that there's skeletons in his closet, which we kind of guessed from last episode anyway. You made the astute observation that his character, Judd, is the villain from the musical Oklahoma. And he said at his little dinner conversation that he once played the hero Curly in a production of Oklahoma. So hence the character could theoretically be a villain masquerading as a hero. And so here we have the chief of police, whatever his title was. And what we find out in this episode is we don't know exactly what it means, but he has a closet.
Right.
And inside it is a giant Klan robe. And I think it's got a badge, or is it just like a Klan? Is that a Klan?
I don't know.
Insignia. There's like a star on it. I couldn't tell if it was like
I don't know that much about the Klan, so it's hard for me to say. Oh yes, that.
Well, of course.
But what that points to again, one of the things we saw in his house, which is the title of the episode, which is the painting that was there.
Marshall. The Comanche Horsemanship painting.
Yes.
Marshall Feats of Comanche Horsemanship.
I wonder what that is referring to. Yeah, I mean,
so that is an actual painting. I think it has the words are inverted. It's like Comanche Feats of Marshall Horsemanship. Whatever, blah blah blah. But it's referring to the fact that this particular person who had spent time with I don't know if it was the 7th Cavalry, but he spent time with some kind of a U.S. military unit, saw on display that the Comanches would do this battle tactic of they were able to, while the horse was at full speed, go to the side, and so they would be, basically use the horse as cover. And was particularly, amazed at the ability to do that, and then to be able to get back up again. And so the painting is describing that. So it kind of goes a little bit more with that 7th Cavalry idea. I think you've got maybe like the genocide, racism type thing going on, perhaps. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. But then when you mentioned that it was cover. Perhaps it's also representative of him masking himself.
Exactly.
It's a different kind of mask, certainly, than the one in his actual closet.
Right.
That was, as an aside, I really liked, that apparently as a ruse, in order to do a search of the house, she feigns fainting or something. But maybe she would. Because she seemed to be like, okay, now she's gone. I can move around.
I think that's true.
But I like the effect of the glasses.
So that's like Night Owl type tech.
Yeah,
right?
Okay. Which that's not the only night, or is it?
No, it's not the only Night Owl, because we saw the Night Owl ship, some version of it that they used in the previous episode.
Right. Although I guess I was actually thinking about the photographers that were using that flying contraption.
I heard that was like a Mothman tech.
Yeah, maybe that's Ozymandias came with that maybe.
But the idea that the journalists are using, mechanical wings.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, it seems like not the most.
Have you ever heard of a drone?
Yeah, right. In this world, no.
Yeah.
The internet and drones.
Yes,
are
exactly.
not a thing.
Although that's one of the interesting things about the shows, where it's like they have that and they don't have, they have a number of things where it's sort of like, you'd think if they have this particular bit of tech that they would have.
Well, for instance, one thing, I mean, maybe Sister Knight had reasons for not taking the DNA swab to the cops, but you would think, oh, I have connections with the cops.
Yes.
I need to get this DNA thing checked.
Yes.
You don't have to tell them why you're getting
Nope.
it checked. You just be like, hey, could you check this DNA sample?
Right.
And blah, blah, blah,
But
blah,
maybe
blah.
at that point, like, the results of that thing came out to be for that guy that they eventually captured. That's
so
weird.
maybe they do. See, I was wondering, maybe they don't have the tech.
They might not have the tech. Or it's like, oh yeah, this is, you got to go to that damn.
Yeah, I gotta go to the kiosk.
Everybody's got to go there. Like,
forum.
okay, the other cops there waiting to.
So we do know. I was gonna say we don't know her parents. But we know a little bit about it. She was born in Vietnam, I believe.
Right.
So that means her parents, Will's kid, somehow ended up in Vietnam.
Right.
And but we don't know necessarily. We haven't met them yet.
Right. No.
If those parents are going to become important in some way.
Right.
But
But yeah, she at that point when she realizes that she's like, oh, they never mentioned me. She said no.
what are some possibilities for the clan robe? I think there's a few different possibilities. One is the obvious.
Yes.
Oh, he was part of the clan.
Yes.
And that may imply that he's also been working for the 7th Cavalry.
Yes.
Another option might be that's his legacy. Maybe his father was in the clan.
Right.
And like he keeps it, but he's embarrassed about it. So he's like,
Right.
I don't want people to see
Well,
this.
not completely embarrassed, obviously.
Well, sure. But I mean, he hides it away in the secret closet.
Yeah. Maybe it's Dorian Gray kind of thing. It allows me to be nice to other people.
Oh, I see.
If
as
I
long
keep
as the robe is
in a closet getting old.
getting old.
You see, you can see
You
my
destroyed it.
racism
Now I'm-
on my.
Yeah. That is a cool comic book you just read there. Okay. So another possibility would be that maybe he infiltrated
Yes.
the clan at some point. And that was his, oh yeah, this is my reference back to that time when I, infiltrated the clan for whatever reason.
Right.
I don't know. I know if you've got an idea out there for, what this means at this point. We don't have enough information. The one thing that makes me think that Judd is not just an out-and-out villain, that he's not just like, oh, I fooled everyone and I've been a terrible person all along,
Yes.
is the fact that Sister Knight is so convinced of his integrity.
Yes.
I feel like they're making her into like a good judge of character, and maybe she's, as you mentioned, got a blind spot for him or something.
Yeah. Or for Judd, Sister Knight was the exception.
Okay.
Like he felt other people deserved worse than she did.
Yeah. Because one reading on the scene where she had a 7th Cavalry person with a shotgun closes her eyes and opens it, and there's Don Johnson, is that somehow Don Johnson helped to keep her alive in that moment. We do not know what happened in that moment.
Exactly.
And obviously, she was not injured again.
Right.
She took an injury, and that was it. So, was that guy killed? Was that guy Don Johnson? Was that guy operating under orders? And then also, I was thinking to myself, you would think because the husband was there,
Right.
and conscious, like does Sister Knight's husband know something about that night that he's maybe just been asked to keep quiet or hasn't told? I think there might be a little.
Yeah, that's certainly. I mean, I would even want to. I haven't only watched that whole episode once, but yeah, it is something important. Like, it's possible that when she pushes him to the side, she does so with such force that it knocks him out. I thought, but who knows what was going on. I thought I kind of saw him kind of moving around as she was getting attacked, but then if he wasn't helping her, then what kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, because there was time
right
in there. Okay, good point. I don't know. Anyway,
so yeah, so it's an interesting thing of what he was doing
because they have a good relationship now.
Yes,
and he has been enough in it that like he could just be a tertiary character that he shows up occasionally. But I feel like he's been in it enough that it's probably worth him having some kind of a backstory that fits into the plot somehow. So I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'd be nice actually if there is more to his character than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, yeah. Because he's had more than just a little part to play. I mean, they've been at dinner together. We've seen these intimate moments together. He's caring for the kids. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
A fair amount. So.
I mean, they've done enough to sort of establish that she has a rich and loving relationship with him, and he certainly also established himself as caring for the children too.
Right, there's a scene too that's kind of odd where what we can assume is her former partner Doyle's father,
right,
the guy from Supernatural, is sitting on the porch wanting to see his grandkids,
right,
and the Sister Knight's spouse is like, I'm just ignoring him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he still out there?
Yeah,
he's still on the porch. No, I paid him to leave. Anyway, but like that was his way of dealing with it. Just like, don't answer the door. I know he's in there. So there's that relationship. That obviously is going somewhere, I think, as well.
Sure.
So we've got Don Johnson, perhaps member of the Klan. Secretly,
and what was it? His wife's involvement.
Right, so his wife apparently worked for
the
state senator, this guy Keene.
And I forgot, when the first time they mentioned him, there was some reason.
The first time they mentioned him was that Keene, he's in the newsstand, when Keene is going to be running against Redford. Like, you going to vote for Keene?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not, that guy's jackass.
Right.
But so this guy has eyes on the big prize,
right?
Which also makes me think early favorite to be your. Now, Ozymandias is your favorite, I guess, to be overarching villain, but like Tulsa villain, I think Keene is in my opinion is the guy who's going to be somehow connected to. If it's not the 7th Cavalry, something that's trying to push the 7th Cavalry together with the cops to make some kind of I don't know what the play is,
right?
But I think that guy is probably in on it in some way.
And one thing I don't think we've said, but I think it's worth saying, is whatever we see during the course of the season, it's supposed to end at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there may be,
Will there be a season 2? Or
if there is, the interviews I've seen with Damon Lindelof suggest that he doesn't know if he will be involved.
Okay, so in other words, he thinks that whatever the storyline is for this will get wrapped up, and then if they did a season 2, it would be a new story.
Yeah.
But same characters, maybe, but different story.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We see this American hero story, kind of the origin, if you want to call it, of Hooded Justice.
Right.
Which, again, we talked about last week, we think might be Will. I still think it could very well be Will. That is Hooded Justice, and now they've really shown us Hooded Justice!
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting is that from what we've seen, maybe that's just because it's those are reenactments.
Yeah, they are reenactments. That's where he gets a little tricky.
Yeah, where it's like, looks like he's a white guy.
Looks like he's a white guy.
Right.
Although, interestingly, too, in that reenactment, it shows how, like, I faked my death, or like there's like the strong man. I think it's from the comic. If you're from the comic, you probably know this, but there's some guy, like a strong man, they find him in the river, dead.
Right.
So, if that's somehow alluding to something in the real world of that show, it could be that there was a Hooded Justice, and then Will Reeves killed that guy and became Hooded Justice, like took over basically.
Right, but I think what I've gathered from looking around is that during the original course of the comic or whatever, it was not known who that was. So I think it's... and one of the interesting things was that Hooded Justice walked around with a noose.
Yeah.
Which, it would have one meaning if it was white, and have another meaning entirely if he's black.
Right? No, yeah. It could be certainly a KKK-ish style person if he was just a white guy walking around
with the news. One thing that Sister Night does is she spray paints her eyes there. So that's something, certainly anything, something that the hooded guy could have done as well.
A little off topic, but kind of reminds me of, I remember I was going through this like Golden Age Heroes directory once, and there was a guy from that time who was called the Hangman. And the Hangman was like this guy with a noose, and his whole thing was he was like a vigilante, didn't have any powers, but he would just like, oh, that guy's bad.
Right.
I'll corner him in an alley.
Yeah.
He would carry a hooded lantern.
Yes.
And he'd show the shadow of the noose on the wall to scare the guy.
Interesting.
And then hang him. Huh. It was like that's pretty specific. Like just killing the guy's not enough. No. First, I got to do the lantern. I got to get the thing in the right spot. He got to see the shadow.
That's interesting. Well, one of the things about the Watchmen comic is that he did base the characters on other heroes and stuff like that. So that's probably what he based it on. I mean, it's hard to think like, no, I'd never heard. No, I just.
Well, I thought it was interesting too that when this version of Hooded Justice, he takes out these convenience store robbers in a very gruesome way. It did look Zack Snyder-y. Right, it was a slow motion fight, and like really like Anyway, so I think it was a little reference to Watchmen.
It's another aside that warning, that content warning at the start of it was so crazy. It was just what the fuck. It's like, no, this is bad. You should not. No, don't. So you to your kids. It was just all this crazy.
Yeah, it had. Whereas like an HBO show's got 4 or 5 warnings, this had maybe 20.
Yeah, it was just all like, no, this will corrupt people. This will.
do not watch the show, and everyone's watching the show. Yeah. So on that note, though, you've got this
right, and that's what the kid wanted to watch, right?
I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Like, can I watch TV?
Yeah.
Sure. Watch the thing that you're not, and no one is supposed to watch. That kid actually was. He gets told that Don Johnson is dead, and he had an interesting reaction.
He did.
Like, I'm fine. Goosh.
Yeah.
Like, can I watch TV?
Right. And I've heard speculation or whatever that just like on Mars with. Dr. Manhattan making up the little castle there that people are
very similar to that castle.
That's what people are saying.
It also looks similar to the castle that Ozymandias is living in.
Right. That's
So there's 3 castles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only real one is the one that Ozymandias is in.
Well, except that I assume Dr. Manhattan could live in that thing that he makes.
I guess, but he kind of makes it and then destroys it.
He destroys it, right.
Either it's just something, maybe there's not a reference, at least in terms of the child, and people just sort of putting it on that. But it does seem like perhaps, although we don't know, at least the one that Dr. Manhattan is making in Mars perhaps does have a relationship somehow to
Ozymandias?
Yeah,
I think it does. I mean, again, too early to tell, but I think that a lot of what's driving Ozymandias is his ego. The idea of that Dr. Manhattan is out there, he is considered to be the godlike superpower, and Ozymandias would like to be that. And so perhaps he's creating this castle and such as a way of like making himself like Dr. Manhattan. He's creating these servants and stuff, his own world. We see that the day that we saw in episode 1 seems to have been repeated. He gets the birthday cake again. He rides in on the horse again. By the way, his horse is Bucephalus. That was Alexander the Great's horse.
Okay, interesting.
So he's put himself as I am Alexander which isn't surprising.
No.
Of course, what was it? The tree grows tomatoes, which they're on vines. So it's like it's a weird. I just feel like he's figured out a way to kind of tinker with creating life on the scale of Dr. Manhattan, but he doesn't know how to do it yet effectively. And so he's got things like clones that want to cut things with a horseshoe, and he's got a tree that grows tomatoes, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, how that's all playing out, I don't know exactly. But so we had the American Hero Story play in a way, a movie show, and then we see another reenactment, which is this play that the clone android things under Ozymandias put on, which is the origin story for Dr. Manhattan, the watchmaker's son. Right. And he just so flippantly just incinerates. Yes. You want to be the new Mr. Phillips? Congratulations.
Yes.
Great. And so so we see that play out. They actually do another little homage, you want to call it, to the movie. They show the blue penis.
Right. Well, and they did in the comic too.
Good point. Okay. So yeah, we do see that all the there's two there's like the female and the male, and we have like 3 versions of each in that scenario. So he's figured out a way to reproduce these beings, and he's having them go through a play, and they're still not perfect at it. They still have to call for line, all that stuff, and he's exasperated by it. But like, to what end? Maybe he's trying to recreate the scenario in which Dr. Manhattan got his powers, and then he would then get the same powers. But obviously, that play's not going to do it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think.
So what is it?
I think he's just trying to. He's just investigating the sort of story that the history that has occurred that led him to make the choice he did in the first place. Is what I think.
Maybe it's like a psychological profile of Dr. Manhattan. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not convinced. Although it might, in the end, I might be resisting it really, because why else would he want to tell the story of Dr. Manhattan to himself? Really, because it's not a benefit to the robots at all.
I think somehow there's a plan involving some way to get Dr. Manhattan, maybe lure him back to Earth for some emergency or something.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't know why I need to be convinced of Dr. Manhattan. I think I'm more thinking that Dr. Manhattan is somehow thinking of Ozymandias and what he's doing than I am of Ozymandias. Like, oh, it's a very important making a plan. That's why to me the only thing is sort of like historical, and figuring that out, as opposed to how can I get his powers, or how can I get him involved, or whatever.
What if it's this? I mean,
because I feel like it's not. That's a very indirect way of doing it. It's a very indirect way of doing a lot of things, and that's why I wonder if it's just sort of him musing about the history and thinking about as he's doing other things. It's sort of like, okay, yes, in my spare time of not pursuing this task, and what that task is, I don't know, but I think it's him figuring out another way to sort of tinker with what's going on with the planet. So initially he came up with the idea of having squids come so that everybody would get together and fight, and maybe now he's seeing like, oh, we still have some racial animosity as opposed to the things that happen. I wonder if there's some way that I can oppose that or affect that by creating another villain or something, is what I'm thinking. So in my mind, I'm less thinking about how would Dr. Manhattan fit into that. But I think there is a way. I just don't know what it is. And maybe your idea is the simpler way, and I should just try to think about that. But at the moment, I'm not convinced that what Ozymandias is doing is related directly to Dr. Manhattan.
Okay. Maybe he's trying to create this clone that would effectively fool people into thinking it's Dr. Manhattan. You know,
that's an interesting idea.
He could control things through that. I don't know, perhaps because he's just assuming that Dr. Manhattan doesn't care so much that Dr. Manhattan will never come back.
Right, and that would be an interesting way to incorporate the choice that they made in the movie, which is to have Dr. Manhattan be the faux villain that everybody was supposed to unite against,
right?
As opposed to the comic, which was the squid,
squid. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. So, and even then, yeah. Then maybe it's going to also bring in the thing you were saying. I think when we were talking earlier about, they may have deliberately in the show pointed you to sort of talking about the powers of Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, when Will's bringing up, they're like, oh, does he have the power to be somebody else, like a real person? And Sister Knight's really convinced, like, no, he can't. And he's like, what do you mean? He could split himself up. He could be two people at once. Why couldn't he be a... Anyway.
Right.
So, yeah, they're discussing it.
Right, yeah. And I've been resistant to the whole thing about, are there powers that we haven't seen? Are there people who have powers that we don't know about? And they're so limited in which characters have powers in this world.
They're definitely nerfed the power set.
Yeah, it's like, you know...
Basically, they're like, most of them are pretty good at fighting.
Yeah. And smart, so they can invent things, you know. So, but that's not, you know, necessarily, hadn't been established like, you know, oh, because of radiation, I'm not smarter. No, I'm just a smart guy that can, you know, I can't come up with computers though, but I can come up with flying things, you know, and I can come up with different ways to fly. I can do that.
Internet? Nope.
Oh, and also robot clones. I can do that
clones.
too, but no internet, no cell phones. No.
I noticed, I don't know if it's the same typewriter, but, you know, he being Ozymandias was typing his play on a typewriter.
Yeah.
And they were using a typewriter in the 1917. I don't know if that's connected or not. But yeah, he's on a typewriter, too. He's playing out this...
Word processors? No.
No. Text to speech.
No.
Speech to text.
That's too far out technologically.
All right, yeah. So we end with Sister Knight saying, "You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and arrest you."
Yeah, because he's not getting. He wants to piece out.
He being Will.
Will wants to piece out the information about what's going on. He effectively had Sister Knight investigate Judge House.
And that's funny because he's like, I wasn't being literal.
Yeah.
Skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I went to check out his closet, like you said. You're like, what? I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. So, you know, he's effectively had her be suspicious of that, but she eventually she made the choice once she found out that who he actually is in relationship to her, that, you know, I got to take you in. But of course, that's when he's rescued. He mentioned he has the friends in high places.
Friends in high places.
Literally.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't mean literally in high places.
But this time he did.
He did.
Yeah. See, it's hard to tell.
Takes the car
it's hard to tell what he means.
I will say something we jumped over, but is important, is that as a reaction to Judd being lynched, the cops are now being led by Red Scare.
Yeah. They roused a trailer park.
They go to this trailer park,
which is interesting. Like that, the trailer park Nixon, there. We will destroy your god, Nixon.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Like I hadn't completely appreciated, since Nixon's face is on Mount Rushmore. I mean, obviously because, I guess with Dr. Manhattan effectively killing all the Viet Cong or whatever, he didn't feel the need to bug the Democratic,
he did not resign
office. Yeah, he did not resign. So he was a great president, and they put him on the thing. But apparently, I mean, it's almost implied, I guess, that these people who are at least reactionary in some ways, they idolize Richard Nixon
over Robert Redford, apparently.
Right. I mean, and it's not even just like, you could say that perhaps you could see, like, Nixon was such a great president that they would begin a trailer park that, but to the point where it's like, oh, we'll punish you by destroying,
by pushing your
statue
over.
Yeah, like, no, don't do that.
Precious statue. So there's a big brawl.
It's like, I don't know if that's like some commentary on the Confederate soldiers or something. Like, no, you can't get rid of our history.
Well, good point. We do see that Sister Knight is not willing at first to take part. She's like, this is unnecessary.
Right.
It's not really gung-ho about it, but one of the... do they have... I think they do have masks.
When they're doing it?
Well, I know the cops do, but I'm saying, do the 7th Cavalry folks I'm forgetting if it's a Rorschach person that attacks her, or if it's just like, oh, I'm a guy from the trailer park.
Yeah, I don't think he had it on there. I think you saw his face as she was beating him up. I wonder if they're really trying to establish something about Sister Night, in that in the first episode, Judd actually didn't think that she would behave in a very strong way with the person she interrogated with, but in fact, first he thought like, oh, maybe you'd be. He was surprised that she had already picked somebody up.
Gotcha.
Where she when she heard about it, about the first incident or whatever, she picked somebody up because she knew that that's what he would ask to do. So she's like, I already knew that you would say, and I did it. Yeah. So I wonder if they're trying to establish something about her, how she's perhaps more measured in her actions than, because they certainly established it in a different way in which she withheld information about having will.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So yeah, that may be the way that they maybe there is more of a distinction between the ways in which the police, even as they're covered, are more corrupt. Actually, they're maybe they needed to keep things from her, and there's really stuff that she's not aware of that is actually more reason to be concerned about them, and
that her own internal moral code
is not
aligned perfectly.
Yeah, with.
That makes sense. I see that. So okay, I don't necessarily have 100% Matt death prediction at this point, but I will say
that's kind of early for it. Would be early for you.
But I try to do it in the first few episodes, because if you do it too late, then who cares, right? Oh, episode 9, you come in with I think so and so's going to die. But so my early front runner for gonna be dead before the end of the season, Red Scare. I think he's way too belligerent. I think either the bad guys will kill him off in some kind of fight, or the good guys will have to have some kind of confrontation with him because he's getting out of hand, and he'll force them to he'll end up dead.
I can see that. I mean, we're not too attached to him right now.
Correct. And I do think we're going to see a backstory, because we do not know anything about this guy.
No, we really don't.
Like, why are you heading up the police now?
Right. But no, the backstory that I want more, though, is Pandas.
Oh, that's coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, plus I'll say this: he has the crappiest costume. I think even Panda has a reasonable.
Reasonable?
It's not reasonable.
It seems to fit him better.
Red Scare's like, I will go to local Adidas, pick up tracksuit, ski mask on sale. Yeah. That's fine. It doesn't really fit. Actually, huge holes. They really. I have accent and I'm huge. If I walk around Tulsa, people probably go, "Oh, look, it's the Russian guy who's 6 feet 6'6".
Sir, would you like us to fit your ski
mask? I'm fine. I'm not scared of you. I'm red. All right. Anyway, yeah, I would think if you were really invested in figuring out who Red Scare is, and you live in Tulsa, I think you can figure it out. I'll just go with that.
You might a better disguise for him might be glasses.
Right. So yeah, there you go. Red Scare. He's my pick to not survive the season.
All right. We'll see if he gets matted.
Is there any further bits?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Thanks everybody. We'll be back talking about Mr. Robot, and we'll be back obviously talking about the Watchmen in the future. Thanks everybody. Bye.